This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hey friends, welcome to episode 155 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you for being with me today. My guest on the show today is Natalie Denyse, the owner and founder of In Good Company PR. She's a PR representative for wedding and hospitality brands. And I think you're going to love today's episode. The title of today's episode, Why a Smart PR and Marketing Strategy Will Help Wedding and Hospitality Brands Thrive. This is a power-packed episode. Before I get to her bio, I just want to tell you about the Essential PR and Marketing Field Guide. We talk about this in the episode, but I wanted to mention it really quickly because it's at the very end. So just in case you don't listen to the whole thing today or you pause to take notes, she is offering $100 off of the course using the code SHECREATES at checkout. That's the code SHECREATES, like She Creates Business, all capital letters at checkout. That'll get you $100 off. And really what the Essential PR and Marketing Field Guide is a course designed for creative brands in the wedding, events, and hospitality industry, looking kind of to propel their business to new heights with a proven PR and marketing strategy. So if you know you need a PR and marketing strategy, this is likely the course for you. You might be an industry veteran. You could feel stagnant. You may need a fresh perspective, or maybe, you're a professional and you've spent 3 to 5 years growing your business, but you're struggling to differentiate your brand because you're kind of in a saturated market. Then the course will be suited for you. You've honed your craft, but you're eager to kind of elevate your brand through that intentional marketing approach. So that is what the Essential PR and Marketing Field Guide is. And again, you can get $100 off that course by using the code SHECREATES at checkout. The link to the course is in the show notes. You can also head to shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com/episode 155 to see all the show notes. That's shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com episode 155 or /155. Sorry. Let me tell you about Natalie. She is the owner of In Good Company PR, a boutique PR and marketing firm specializing in the wedding, events, and hospitality world. In Good Company PR has represented tastemakers around the world, from destination event planners and top photographers to unique catering companies and more. With a holistic view of marketing, In Good Company PR is a committed partner to their clients, using media relations, social and content in tandem to generate strategic growth for creative brands. In Good Company PR's clients have appeared in the New York Times, Inc. Magazine, Entrepreneur, Martha Stewart Weddings, Vogue, and more. Now, one of the tips that Natalie suggests inside of this episode is to have a strategic and intentional content strategy. So I wanted to remind you that the She Creates content calendar is available for purchase, and it's $197 now. It was $127 up until December 9th, but it is 365 days of intentional content just for wedding professionals. So you don't have to sift through the ideas to see, I could apply this to the wedding industry. It's all strategic content prompts for the wedding industry. And it really could help you with that strategic and consistent, being the operative word there, content strategy that we discuss in this episode and in many episodes. So you can get that at shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com /marketing-strategy. That will be in the show notes as well. Without further ado, let's talk to Natalie Denyse from In Good Company about why a smart PR and marketing strategy will elevate your wedding brand. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kinsey. I'm so honored to be here.
I am honored to have you here. It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation because, as you and I were talking about offline, I feel as if PR still, no matter what stage of business you're in, you can find yourself thinking that it's an elusive topic that is maybe difficult to understand and even harder to implement. And I know that what we're going to talk about today will assuage all of those fears and give people the confidence they need to move forward with PR in their own wedding business.
I sure hope so. And, I couldn't agree more. And, just to calm everybody's fears, PR and marketing is something that you are very well equipped to do. And I hope that some of our discussion today gives everyone that boost of encouragement to get started.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I have lots that I want to ask you, and I know you have a lot to say. Before we get there, though, as I always do, I did read your professional bio, so everybody has a pretty good idea of where you're coming from, Natalie. But in your own words, will you share with us just who you are, what you're doing in the industry, and give us a little bit of 411 on you?
Sure. So In Good Company PR is a boutique marketing and PR firm, and we really specialize in the wedding and events and hospitality world. We're working with creative brands, not the big heavy hitters of the world, but really the people that are responsible for producing and hosting exceptional celebrations. And so my background is actually in agency PR. After I graduated from college, I went and spent a number of years at a mid-size public relations firm doing enterprise PR. So very much, client facing with people in the Fortune 500 world and in the C-suite sort of operation. And that is really where my foundation for PR and marketing was built. But all the while, I spent my summers actually working as a third set of hands for a very high-end wedding and events planning firm here in New England. We're located in Boston. So for about 4 years, I sort of shadowed what they were doing because of a love that I had just for weddings in general. And through that experience, really found the evidence of a lack of marketing knowledge and also, a gap in resources specifically geared towards creative professionals in this industry. And so fast forward a number of years later, I went back to my alma mater. I went through an incubator program to start the business. And I actually, worked on client facing and, client programs for a number of years before we even started the firm full time. So we've been in business for 5 years, but this has been something of a labor of love for quite a few years before that as well. So today we get to work with some incredible clients. I mean, I'm very, very blessed. Our whole entire team is very fortunate to work with tastemakers from coast to coast and all over the world. This year was the first time that we went international. We had the unique opportunity to work with an event planning firm in Italy and Amsterdam. So that was really exciting. And we are just so thankful, not only for the creative contributions that we witness every day from these brands, but also the opportunity to help them.
Congratulations on going international. That is really exciting for you. And I can imagine what it was like to work with somebody in Italy. What a beautiful area. So I've heard. I've never been there.
Oh my gosh, book a ticket
amazing.
Now. That's going to be on your bucket list.
That's on my list. I know, as you said, this place in Italy, I was like, oh gosh, it sounds amazing. Natalie, one of the things that you are very passionate about and that you like to talk about is marketing in a modern world. And I really appreciate the way you say this, because you believe in kind of the importance of diversifying our marketing to ensure longevity and to ensure relevance. And I don't know a wedding professional alive who doesn't want to be relevant and who doesn't want longevity, at least in their brand, because even as an exit plan, they might want to sell, et cetera, and they're still going to need all of these things. So what does that mean exactly when you say the importance of modern marketing? What is that?
Yeah. So, to step back a little bit, I know that there are so many different types of listeners of this amazing podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You could be, an industry veteran who has been in the wedding events or hospitality world for 15 or 20 years, and you may feel like you hit a plateau and you need a fresh perspective. Or you could be more of a rising star who is saying to themselves, wow, I really feel pressured by what's happening in this industry with saturation and such a low barrier to entry. And so I think if you identify with either one of those, you have the foundation to really springboard a smart marketing strategy, because it tells me that you're committed to doing it right. And so modern marketing to me means simply making sure that the client that you are trying to attract and you're trying to connect with, you're doing so on a consistent and an effective basis, where it doesn't matter if they're reaching you on social media or whether they're reaching you through a piece of media coverage or through your blog, your email newsletter, or at an event, that they are getting a consistent and cohesive message every single time. And so that's what modern marketing really means to me.
Have you found in working with clients and just observing in the industry that do you see a lot of people who maybe have inconsistent messaging, and if so, what are just a few tips that we can do to kind of scope out all of our areas where we are messaging to our clients to kind of bring those back to a consistent effort?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have found, and a lot of times people will come to us with the greatest of intentions and think that they need PR and marketing. And what they really need is a stronger brand identity. And so branding is something that I know a lot of people can sort of think synonymously with the words PR and marketing, but they're very, very different. So what I would say is, first and foremost, just make sure that you have a really strong brand and an understanding of who that ideal client is, where they're spending their time, and what types of messages are really pushing them to convert from just your audience to a paying long-term client. So that, I think, is the first step. And then really, marketing is the channel that you communicate that value, your identity, your perspective, so that you can start to grow this community of champions who long term will advocate and trust your brand. So a lot of times, what we will start with the clients that we work with is trying to build a marketing plan. And I have to say that, working with some of these industry leaders, the people that thrive, regardless of the evolution that the business goes through, the people that thrive are those who have a really strong marketing plan. So I'm happy to kind of chat about how you build that marketing plan if you feel like that's relevant.
I think it's so relevant, Natalie. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, my perspective on building a marketing strategy and a marketing plan is not to add an extra to-do to your, laundry list of things that you have to accomplish, because I understand, you are fulfilling so many roles in your business, and you may not have the luxury of either bringing on a full-time partner like our firm or having somebody on your team that really has the makings of that marketing point person. So building a strategy is something that honestly we do, and we suggest our clients do once or twice a year. And I actually do it as an intensive over 2 or 3 days. I'll take a few days by myself to sort of check in with how we're doing from a goals and objectives perspective, and then also communicate that to our team. And I can tell you a little bit more about that process kind of once we get into the conversation. But I would say to start, pinpoint a time in your year, and it may be coming up, this winter or early 2020, where you say, I have a little time to devote to really setting those goals, building that roadmap, and then analyzing my efforts on a continual basis, and then just making that date with yourself. I mean, blocking it out in your calendar is just such a great tactic for us, at least. So that's a good start. But then you're probably asking yourself, well, what do I put in my marketing plan?
Yeah.
Well, your marketing plan should really be used so that all of your marketing and PR efforts are rooted in insight. So first, there's a lot of this discovery phase that goes into building a marketing plan. And like I said, it's identifying, who that ideal client is, where they're spending their time, how they're consuming content, and what are the types of conversations that are really driving them to then become that brand champion or that advocate, someone that craves whatever you're putting out, they can't get enough of. And that's really the goal. So, in my mind, I always like to say to clients, don't be on all the places. Don't feel like you have to be on Pinterest, on Instagram, on TikTok, in email, on your blog. You don't have to do all of those things. What's better is to identify a few channels that are realistic for you to keep up with in a consistent way and focus your energy there, because there's nothing worse than half-baked effort when you could otherwise be dedicating that time to something that's really going to be worthwhile.
Are there any specific platforms that you, and of course, I know that the answer to this for everyone will be different if they're doing the research that you recommend, but are there some platforms that you have seen kind of consistently with your clients that are for sure something that we should be paying attention to as wedding pros?
Yeah. So let's say, for instance, we were working with a client who owned an event venue, which I know some of your listeners probably do. So
yeah, they do.
That's probably a great place to start. So let's say you own an event venue. I would potentially say that a great marketing framework for you would be social media, it would be content, and it would be offline networking and relationship building. And of course, there's so many other channels that you could take into account, like media relations, which is something that our firm really specializes in, which is basically press, getting in articles, getting your work featured. There's also speaking and award opportunities. There are things like brand partnerships, digital advertising. There are so many aspects of marketing that you could consider, but let's boil it down to three. So social media, content, and networking. So from a social media standpoint, I know it's pretty obvious. I don't foresee Instagram really going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's still going to be a relevant channel for creative brands, but I would really encourage everyone listening to think about other channels that could give you that same effectiveness through more of your organic photos and videos, because it's going to become harder and harder to be seen and have your work appreciated for its depth and craftsmanship on Instagram, because Instagram is going to become populated with sponsored ads. I mean, it's just a matter of time. So what I'd love for people to do is think about other sort of platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and both of those are video platforms where you can showcase, your property from a variety of vantage points. And then there's other, creative video platforms like IGTV. And I would say, please start using more of the video functionality on Instagram if you are going to be spending your time there, because that is going to propel your business in a way that posts just don't have, the functionality to do so. Right. And then the last channel that I would say that I am seeing a huge amount of growth in is LinkedIn. Yeah. And I know that you've talked about this before, but LinkedIn is a channel that I think has kind of gone under the radar over the last few years, and I think is emerging as a really powerful tool, especially if your property has applicability to the corporate world. So it's taking maybe a piece of content and a video or a photo that you would have otherwise posted on Instagram, posted on LinkedIn, and try to use the real estate that you have as the caption as something that really connects to that corporate audience and that corporate C-suite community, whether that's talking about, how you host brand retreats or company appreciation parties at your property, or how the property was built and what was the thought process into, the different aspects of the venue. Those are all things that a business community is going to be really interested in, where that might fall maybe a little bit more flat on a platform like Instagram.
That's right. And if you are not a venue owner like I am, or like those listening, this is still applicable. If you are a photographer, if you are a wedding planner, if you are someone who is trying to reach that corporate audience that Natalie is talking about, because that's really where they're hanging out. And here's the cool thing, especially for you planners, I'm thinking about you. If you have not kind of divested into the corporate industry and you want to do that, I'll tell you a secret. They have decent budgets, especially if you are in an area like Natalie is in. If you're in New England, if you are in kind of the Southeast, my area, not a lot of corporate happenings unless you're in Denver. But if you have that opportunity and you're interested in it and you're interested in serving those people well, that could be a great new revenue stream.
Yeah. And I love how you brought that up, Kinsey, because a lot of, what we've been seeing with the planners and event designers and producers that we work with is the more opportunity that you can speak a language that helps calm any worry or makes that corporate client feel like you are completely trustworthy and that you've been in the business and your expertise is well qualified. That's what they care about. And so on LinkedIn, what I would recommend is start talking about how you built your own business, because that is so incredibly powerful to someone that may be in a decision-making position at, a local tech startup, or maybe even across the country, and they're in, the luxury real estate market, and they see a post about a women-founded event planning firm with the backbone of a Fortune 500 company. They're going to be very impressed and they're going to reach out to you. So start using that channel as a mouthpiece for maybe conversations that you would have otherwise overlooked on maybe a more visually driven platform like Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing up LinkedIn in such a detailed way, Natalie, because it is not something, you're right, I have mentioned it before, but it's not something, even we haven't had like a dedicated episode to it or anything like that, because you are so right. It has really flown under the radar. And I believe that people outside of the wedding industry are taking advantage of it now, which is great. But there are so many ways, as you've just illustrated, that we can also take advantage of it in this industry.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, the second, go ahead.
Well, just a quick question while we're still on social media. I just wanted to ask if you would recommend, I know you mentioned that, of course, Instagram isn't going anywhere, but it is going to be harder to stand out. And you mentioned adopting an IGTV strategy. And we also mentioned other platforms like YouTube, like TikTok. That one's a lot newer to us anyway. Would you recommend that maybe a person get comfortable on something like IGTV, since I'm guessing a lot more people know what that is than TikTok, and then moving over to TikTok or YouTube? Or are you thinking that, because YouTube, because TikTok are really kind of those gargantuans, should we just go right there?
So I think the answer that I'm going to have for you may shock a lot of people. I am a firm believer in getting ahead of the curve. And
tell me more.
I really, really love to see people say to themselves, okay, if I feel comfortable on video to even a small degree, start playing around with the functionality of a platform like TikTok in your own personal life. So start an account, with your own personal profile, and gain that sense of comfort and knowledge of how that platform works and how you can start engaging with people. And then I would start really thinking about how you can use it for your business. And this could be, TikTok is a really great example because it's bite size. Everything is meant to be super digestible and fun. So this is a really good opportunity to maybe take some of the things that you would have posted on an Instagram story and just thinking about how you can put that into the video framework of TikTok with that same level of energy and sort of flirtation, if you will, with your audience, because that will be sort of the nice inroad to allowing you to use that platform for more serious business driving sort of content. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I appreciate your take on that you, as of course, we all want to be on the forefront. And that really goes back to the relevance piece that you encourage when it comes to modern marketing.
Exactly. And, I could sit here and say, put all your eggs into IGTV. And I still think Instagram is going to be very powerful. But unless, here's the thing. Instagram is going to continue to be useful for as long as you see leads coming through that channel. So this goes back to something that we always do with our clients is we set up Google Analytics for them to really understand which of these referral sources are giving the most bang for our buck. And I can argue that I think Instagram is going to become less and less of a direct lead channel than I think it has been in the past. It's not going to disappear. And I certainly would not want anybody to think she's telling me to get off Instagram. No, 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 no. I'm saying, maybe reallocate a little bit of your effort that may have been otherwise focus on just static posts or even stories and start to develop a comfort level with more interactive videos and personalized sort of content that tells your story. And then you'll be in a perfect position to then hop onto YouTube or hop onto TikTok if you haven't already started playing around with that platform. But the next big thing is coming. There was a time when Instagram didn't exist, and there will be a time when Instagram is a little bit more in our rear view mirror than it may seem like right now.
That's right. And this is one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, about owning our own businesses and not kind of being stuck behind corporate red tape, is that we can take the time to future forecast for our business. We may not know what the next quote big thing is, but it is so much easier for us to be nimble and to pivot when necessary. And if that involves pivoting our marketing right now just a little bit so that we're prepared for that quote next big thing, well, we have the ability to do that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't.
I feel like this is a great segue into content since we're talking about, divesting our content.
Yeah. So, as we sort of touched on before, Kinsey, content is really used to establish yourself as an expert and continually strengthen your position in the market. And it's really meant to just help a client envision what the entire experience is going to be like when they work with you. And more than that, what is the transformation that they are going to have, before and after engaging with you or working with you in a personal and intimate setting. So, content and social media, like you were saying, they go hand in hand. They're like peanut butter and jelly. And what I would say is, I would really encourage all creative brands to think about where they feel most comfortable, whether it's the written word, whether it's video, like we just talked about, or whether it's audio. And something that you're doing so beautifully, Kinsey, is you've harnessed audio. I mean, it is your sweet spot. And that is wonderful that you've discovered that. And I would encourage, and I'm sure that you share this mentality, is I'd encourage people to try to find that type of content mechanism to deliver their message in a way that feels intuitive and feels natural to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also encourage you to make that medium that feels real natural to you, podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, it's such a great medium right now, and it's just completely exploding.
Well, and I think that there is such a salient point that you brought up right now is it is exploding. And I think that there are a number of other marketing content channels that are coming back into vogue. And one of them, I think people will be a little surprised about, but I foresee email marketing actually coming back as something that can be a really powerful brand awareness driver, but also profitability driver. So, gone are the days when you would get an email newsletter from Old Navy or Gap with an out-of-date coupon or an offer that doesn't apply to you, or signing up for somebody's email newsletter list and never receiving an email from them. Right now is the perfect time to harness something like email marketing, because if you think about how your client is consuming content, they're consuming content on their own agenda. And what I mean by that is they're opting in to people's email newsletters, or, we have a marketing memo, and it's a way for us to communicate sort of digestible resources and sources of inspiration for our community that is developed with them in mind specifically. And we can also have a dialogue with people as well. And so I think that people, especially, as you talk about and think about people in the more affluent, high net individuals who are really customizing their content experience, they are subscribing to things and signing up for things on their own accord. And that means you have a direct connection and a direct line to their attention span. And that is sometimes through their inbox. For you, it's through their earbuds, and that's fantastic. Again, they're subscribing to that. They want that content. So email is, something that I would also say, if you haven't considered it and the written word is something that you feel particularly strong with, maybe think about whether that's a channel that you could amplify a little bit for your brand.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think email, and I would say that even in our industry, and this is a huge generalization, but I think in the wedding industry that we even haven't begun to tap into I don't think it's coming back for us. I don't think we've even been able to tap in yet to the power of email marketing, because one of the arguments I hear a lot from my clients or from listeners is that, well, our businesses are so cyclical. Our client, it's not like an online business coach where the information is going to be applicable all year, every year for the next 5 years. And that, once our client's wedding happens, well, then we don't have anything else to say to them. And I really kind of push back on that, because even, for example, we're talking about Insta stories, so I'll go back to that. We can see who watches our Insta stories. Do you know how many of my past brides are watching my Insta stories?
Yes.
And they're still interested. So if you're serving up good human interest content and not just pressing the sales message into every email, if you're just saying, hey, come get married here or come have my planning services, of course your past brides don't care about that. But if you're giving interesting content that's also that's applicable to multiple people, your past couples are still going to open those emails.
I think that's a great aspect to touch on a little bit deeper, because what you are doing through all of these content channels is you are building that community of champions. It doesn't matter if they've already paid you their final check, or you're onboarding them as a new client, or they're a partner in the industry who you would just love to have, a consistent touch point with. You are building that community of champions who advocate for you and trust you. And, some of the ideas that we have used and integrated into email marketing campaigns for our clients. For a property, it could be recent events. Yes, of course, a little spotlight on a notable event or a celebration that took place. But what about things like property upgrades and culinary happenings in your kitchen, updates to the menu or updates to the bridal suite in some way from an aesthetic position, whether it's upcoming public events that you're participating in. Maybe it's a philanthropic effort or, a charity event. Potentially some seasonal booking specials if that's part of your business model. But then there's also things like an opportunity to spotlight a great creative partner that you work with time and time again. Because then you spotlight them in your email newsletter, that gets sent to that partner, and they are so overjoyed and so, obviously appreciative of the fact that you share that like-minded philosophy towards exceptional client service and events, that they then share that with their network. And automatically, you've expanded your community through authentic storytelling and content that you may have otherwise overlooked as a channel. So I love this. And I really think that it's going to become more and more powerful as the years progress and as our market evolves.
That's right. The most personalized brands are going to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You're so right.
It ties really nicely into the third part of this marketing plan that we've hypothetically built for this property, which is offline networking. And I have to say that we, again, are very fortunate to work with industry leaders and tastemakers, but also rising stars in this market. And I have to say that those who prioritize their relationships with other professionals and partners who share a like-minded philosophy and a commitment to that, excellence is really such a strong source of not only referrals for them, but also greater brand growth. It allows you that intuition and that community to tap into as you start to roll out new services or expand your team. You have this network of people that are going to encourage you and to give you that feedback when you need that. So I always say that whether it's a new relationship or one that you've been nurturing for a long, long time, just make sure that you're coming at it from a value add perspective. So, think instead about what can I get from this person? What does this person offer me long term? To how can I support them now and in the years to come as we grow our relationship? So just leave your ego at the door and just treat them like family from the get-go and open up the conversation about how can I support your growth so that we together can be better partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What are some of those, I know you have a couple of offline networking opportunities, and I think that these are applicable, even if, we're kind of gearing towards those who own a venue like I do, but I feel like these are applicable even if you don't, because you can create these anywhere.
Yeah. So, some of my favorite avenues of thinking creatively of how you can connect with other partners who maybe you've admired for years and you would just love to work with them. Or, if you're a photographer and you want to gain a new perspective into, say, destination weddings, and you know that a planner is traveling in your area in a certain time frame, being able to reach out to them and say, listen, I've admired your work for a number of years. This is the reason why I think you're so special, and, calling those out and saying, I'm available if your client has, a rehearsal dinner or a next day brunch that may have otherwise gone undocumented. Or more than that, can I help you while we're in the same zip code and give you some photography or videography of your team working on site? those types of offers are always really appreciated because it may not serve the client directly, but it helps that partner realize what you're capable of. So a few other, ideas could be obviously hosting like a mini celebration or a gathering with other planners to introduce them to a property that you love. Or if you're a property venue, inviting those people in and really showcasing what makes your property super special. You could also think about other ways outside of the wedding industry. And this is something that we encourage all of our clients to do, is be more active just in your local community, whether that's charitable organizations or philanthropic events where you can offer a helping hand. If you're a floral designer, if you can, help beautify a space for a charitable meetup or an organization that may otherwise not have a floral budget, or entertainment, doing something of the same sort of level. Getting outside of even that part of it could be thinking creatively, again, where your ideal clients are spending their leisure time. A lot of people may find that their clients are really interested in the arts or culinary or travel. So could you partner with a local art gallery and host some sort of event there, or, a culinary pop-up at a lifestyle brand that may not always have sort of that kind of experiential event. So there are so many different ways. I think overall, it really depends on what your business is and what your goals are. But I would just encourage everybody to think a little bit outside of the traditional constructs of, emailing somebody and asking for something. Instead, really reaching out with an authentic value add for something that may be fresh and new.
Yes. And, as you were talking about these examples, I was just nodding my head because you and I are so much on the same page with these. There's a few episodes back, you guys, and I'll link this in the show notes. I did an episode with Lindsay Lucas called 9 Ways to Get More Clients. And we talked a lot about thinking creatively, thinking outside the box, and getting in front of people who could be your ideal client, but you're not necessarily approaching them from a, what can you do for me? It is more of an approach that you're talking about, Natalie, which is, how can I become part of and help the environments you're already in just as a human being? You're going to find your clients there, like those gallery openings, like those regular meetings, maybe in the corporate space. Those are your clients. That's just how they're living their life. We don't have to get in front of people just at the bridal fair when they're thinking about their, planning their wedding. They're out there living their everyday life, doing really cool things. And if we come to them instead of making people come to us all the time, I think we're going to find ourselves in a lot more relatable situations.
Exactly. And, even thinking about more from a personal aspect, I love yoga. Yoga and meditation is very much a part of kind of what I do on a daily basis. If I had a brand that I represented the ideal client for, what I would do is, if I were a photographer or I was, a videographer, I would seek out local event yoga retreats and say, can I capture this for you so that you have marketing material to share on your website, on social media? And then I, as the ideal client, go to that yoga retreat. Then I see the photos the next day and I say to myself, wow, these are really beautiful. And I'm resharing them on social media. When I go to get engaged, I may know nothing about the wedding industry, but I do remember those beautiful photos from that one yoga retreat that I went to. And that could be the start of a new, beautiful relationship. That is just one very focused sort of idea that came to mind, but you can see how the application of this comes into play. And what I would encourage people is just to think a little bit outside of the normal constructs and say, how can I get in front of people who really do represent my ideal client in a way that feels authentic to me and natural into what I'm already offering, on a regular basis.
Yes. Yes. We've covered a lot of ground with
Yes, we
marketing,
have.
with PR, and I feel like, but it's been all structured and it's wonderful. I know that everyone has been taking tons of notes, but the question I have is this. So how do we use this? How do we use everything we've talked about today? How do we implement it into our businesses?
Great question. So, like I mentioned before, I would really recommend everyone take a little time and think about how they can block off a date with themselves or with their team to actually build this marketing plan for themselves based on those unique goals that you have set. And that needs to take into account financial needs from just an overall business operation standpoint, but also what are the needs from a creative standpoint that are really going to fill your tank up, that are really going to provide you purpose and fulfillment. And so what I would do is make that date, and I would then break into a 3-part process to building this strategy plan. So first, identify and establish those unique goals, both financially and creatively. Then I would build this roadmap to how you're going to achieve those goals through the marketing tactics that you feel like are realistic for you to keep up with on a consistent basis. Because marketing and PR, whether you're looking at this outline like social media, content, and offline networking, or whether it's media relations and speaking and social media, however you are comprising this marketing plan, what you need to make sure is that if it doesn't feel approachable to you to keep up with on a regular basis, it's not going to work. So that's why I encourage people to not bite off more than they think they can chew and be in all the places at once. Instead, I'd really encourage you to think about the channels that make most sense for your business and say to yourself, how am I going to use this one single channel, and what is the marketing message that I am going to be communicating on a consistent basis? And then, once or twice a year, it could be midway through the year, it could be the end of the year, then I would make a date with yourself to analyze those efforts and ensure that what you are doing is working. And if it's not, feel like you can be nimble, like we were saying earlier, Kinsey, nimble and flexible to reallocate some of your resources and your time to maybe integrating a new channel or refining the strategy that you have on one of those channels to better serve your audience where you are in that exact sort of transition moment in your business. So it's a 3-part process. And I would say if you were to minimally set aside time at the beginning of 2020 and maybe midway through 2020, that would be enough to kind of check in with yourself and make sure that the things you're doing on, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, are really aligning with those larger objectives. And again, having this kind of marketing plan, it's not something that you create just to let it sit and collect dust. It's really something that can be your insurance policy against losing focus during some of the busiest times of your year.
Yes, I am so glad you said that. I was thinking that to myself. For me and for our wedding venue, that is one of the biggest challenges is, of course, sticking with our goals and sticking with especially our marketing goals during that really busy wedding season. And so I'm so glad you touched on that, because having that strategy, having that roadmap is what's going to help you. You already know what you need to do. You're not trying to conceptualize, then create, then implement. You've already done that conceptualization and that creative work. All you're doing is implementing during that busy season.
Yes. Yes. And you're implementing with insight rather than throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks.
That's right. That's right. I'm guessing that there are some people listening and they've taken what we've talked about on this interview and they're going to run with it. They're going to implement. They are self-starters and they don't need us anymore. But for those of us who want to go deeper, for those of us who need more hand-holding, I feel like they're a perfect fit for the Essential PR and Marketing Field Guide for creative brands. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So first of all, I really do hope that people walk away today and say, okay, I have a sense of what I need to be doing. But for those of you who may be saying, great, I have this idea of how I want to build a marketing plan, but I just need to dive into it in a more thorough and comprehensive manners. This is why we created the Essential PR and Marketing Field Guide. So it's a self-guided course hosted all online, and it is really designed and dedicated towards the needs of the people that we get to work with every day. So creative brands in the wedding, events, and hospitality world. This is not a generalized course where you can get a marketing course offline any day, but it's the industry application to what you do on a daily basis that's very unique. So you're going to gain not only clarity in your market position, but you're also going to gain knowledge of how to build that smart marketing strategy so that you start connecting with clients who appreciate and value, and more importantly, are willing to invest in your craft, because that's the end game for all of us. Whether you work with us in a full-time capacity or you become a member of this course, that is the goal. And that's the way that you are going to see your business thrive for the next generation. So the course is pretty streamlined. It's very simple. There's digestible video modules and worksheets that everyone gets, as well as a little bit of one-on-one consulting with me, which I'm super excited about, and ongoing support inside of our private Field Guide Facebook group. And that is really designed to not only help you, take accountability for your own success through the implementation of all these recommendations, but also provide a really welcoming and encouraging space to connect with like-minded creative brands who take the same level of commitment in their marketing strategy as you do. And that is really, really exciting for me to be able to offer. So you're probably wondering what's inside the course. So we talk about PR, we talk about how to pitch an editor, we talk about how to showcase your work effectively, we talk about content development and content calendar building, we talk about social media, we dive into the world of smart strategic networking like we touched upon today. We also touch a little bit upon market positioning and elevating your current service offerings so that they are more appealing to that ideal client. We talk a little bit about SEO and Google Analytics at a high level. So it's a really comprehensive program that is meant to be something that acts within the fiber of your business. It's something that once you join, you have lifetime access to the content so that you can revisit it, months from now or years from now. It can also be something that, unlike a lot of online courses, they require you to actually purchase multiple seats for people that you may be sharing the course with. And I am a firm believer that, especially in the creative community, your team is just as much a part of your success as you are as the owner. So I want to encourage people that have somebody on their team with the makings of a marketing guru to use this course as sort of an onboarding or a professional development tool so that it becomes part of, again, the fiber of their brand. So really, it's something that has been a labor of love for me. It's been in development for over a year, and it is a direct reflection of the guidance and support that we give our full-time clients. And so we're very, very, very excited to launch it. And with this first launch, we are actually limiting our founders circle to 100 creative brands. And there's a few reasons why we do this. We're a boutique PR marketing firm. We work with 12 to 15 creative brands a year, and that's not very many. And we want to be true to that boutique sensibility and make sure that we're able to provide that ongoing support and nurturing of your growth inside of the course. So limiting it to 100 creative brands ensures that we're able to do that, but also that you are able to start to create relationships with people that actually matter to your business and help your business grow to new heights. So I'm very, very, very excited to bring it to market.
I think that's really important. It's important, number one, you mentioned the Facebook group. I think it's important to be around and be in community with other people who have just as ambitious of goals as you do for your business. It's difficult. It's sort of like in sports. When you're on varsity and you get knocked down to play at the JV level because they're missing a person, you start to play at that level. And the same is true in business. When you are surrounding yourself with people who are maybe not at the same level of business, it's sort of hard for you to play to your strengths. Not that you shouldn't be the leader in some regards, not that you can't kind of carry people, but there's something to be said for being around folks who have the same goals, who are at the same stage of business, who at least have the same motivation as you do. And I feel that keeping it also smaller helps people, like you said, get to know others, build those beneficial relationships, and support people in a real and genuine, authentic way.
Exactly. And, a big part of what I preach is I see such value in working with a core group of partners. You have your go-to floral designer or your bestie photographer that has been with you for years and understands your service excellence. But there's also something to be said about working with new partners, whether it's across the country or around the world, and being able to flex your creative muscles by working with new partners who all the while you can trust have that shared similarity in service excellence and, the way that they work with clients and the product that they're delivering. This Facebook community and the community of this course was really meant to provide that foundation for that growth in a way that is sustaining and long-term. I'm such a big believer in attending workshops and events, but this course was created to not only be that learning component, but that long-term networking opportunity that will translate into partnerships that are mutually beneficial in a way that really, again, propels someone's business to the next level.
That's right. You have a little offer, I think, for my awesome listeners.
Yes. So we are, first of all, I'm so appreciative to have been on today. And I believe that so many of you listening could be thinking to yourself, all of this sounds wonderful. Where do I start? I feel a little lost. I don't know if this is, how I should be going about building a marketing plan. This is going to give you the rubric to really doing it with intentionality and also considering the best practices and proven methods of industry leaders that we've worked with for years. So you can head to www.theessentialprfieldguide.com, or you can also visit us at our website, which is www.ingoodcompanypr.com. And there will be a link to the course in there. And as a special welcome, because I would love to have a few of you in our Founders Circle, you can use the code SHECREATES for $100 off the entire course.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is so generous, Natalie.
I'm so excited, and it would be such an honor and a deep pleasure to have a few of you in this Founders Circle, because I really do feel like your listeners are so forward thinking in the way that they have approached their business. And it would be such a thrill and a pleasure to help you all springboard that growth to new heights together. So I really hope that you join.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for everything that you shared today and taking us through this step by step. I know that the interview itself will be so valuable. I know that the PR and marketing field guide is going to just absolutely crush it. And I appreciate you sharing that coupon code with these listeners, because you're right. They are forward thinking. They are amazing. These women, oh man, let's not talk about it because I'm going to start crying. But anyway, Natalie from In Good Company.
The feeling is mutual, Kinsey.
I know. Thank you. Well, Natalie, it has been such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for taking the time today. And quickly, before I forget, sometimes I forget to say this. You guys know I always put everything in the show notes, including the links to the course, including the links to Natalie's website. You can connect with her on Instagram, shoot her an email if you'd like to know more about the services there at In Good Company. But don't forget that they're in the show notes. And if y'all have any trouble finding those, just DM me on Instagram. I'll help you out. I'll send you the link. Natalie, thank you so very much for being here, and we'll have to do it again.
Thank you, Kinsey, and thank you, listeners. I cannot wait to connect with you too.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.